Good day. My name is Stephen Davids. I am a systems designer, a professional generalist, and the owner of a training company. This video is about user-friendly case numbers. It is actually a follow-up of two other videos of mine, which is the one is about the auto-generation of unique case numbers, and the other video is also about the case management. Knowledge of these two videos will be good in understanding today's session. I will start off by discussing the problem that I experienced and want to address in this video. Then also go to the solutions, firstly looking at the theory behind the solutions, the steps how you implement it, and then at the implementation itself. You can keep way one constructs your IDs to be generated automatically. In this case, the ID may read fine for you and it may be easily recognizable if you put it, for example, in your heading, subject heading, when you email the topics with you. It reads basically a management record of the specific person, MAR, and this is then the ID number based on the timestamp that is auto-generated. However, the problem now is it may read easy, but suppose you have two people and then it's Mary Anders in this case, and the other person is Martin. Now they submitted their forms about 30 minutes apart, nearly 30 minutes apart, but the IDs are the same. To what person do this one belong? Another problem is secondly, should these people input their data as they want to? Sometimes capital letters, they input their names, small letters with spaces. We have an additional problem, namely there is not really uniformity. In this case, there is a small letter in front, it's all capital letters, and here are even spaces. Further, if you want to validate this type of data, the problem is further that is capital letters a series of capital letters mixed with small letters, and then there are spaces in between, which makes it a little bit more difficult for the person input to put it exactly the way it must be. If there is also at the very start, for example, spaces involved in the input, then how many spaces do the person put in? 2 spaces? It is possible to have it. Look, this is not a wrong auto-generated ID. The question is just, it's a little bit more problematic for the person inputting when you want to validate it, because he may struggle and he's more prone to make mistakes if you do not validate the input data. My solution to this is what I call a user-friendly auto-generated number that is easier to input for the person inputting the data. It's easier to read as well as to validate, and then hence to reduce input errors. The reasons are because there's only one case now. Capitals, small letters, mixed. There's no spaces in between. There's a reduced probability of two case numbers being the same because the number generated based on the timestamp is much longer because it includes the more minute seconds. Behind this case number are more than meets the eye. I will now go into the construction of this case number so that you can understand it and if you want to change it, modify the appearance of your specific case number. This case number consists of the following elements. The first three letters are any letters that I determine it's a fixed text. In this case, it means for an impairment database. You can have DIS for disciplinary databases and case numbers. You can have maybe even have two fixed letters in your fixed text. I prefer three because in our cases, three letters are more descriptive in many cases. It can even be two letters if you understand whatever you mean. So the fixed text are the first section. Then let me jump over the other two letters and go into the numbers with a space. This number is auto-generated from the timestamp because we expect a high input at more or less the same time, because we have to do with students, and students will mostly act late and then they rush and clog the system, although we hope the system doesn't clog in this case. But they may submit some forms at the same time or nearly the same time. If they do at the same time, then there's another problem safeguard, and that is we input and auto-generate two additional numbers. The first letters. The first additional letter may be from his surname. The second additional capital letter is perhaps from his or her name. We have these numbers that the person input, but you must always remember there are two ways how you can have these two in-between numbers in order to increase the probability that someone will not have the same case number. And that is, perhaps you can have a direct one of those K or M that is in red to a drop-down box or checkbox of which you have control. In that case, you are sure about the case. You don't need to clean it later. But if you direct it to a column where the learner inputs, for example, is surname or name or whatever, then you must first clean it. Just remember that. And then I'll just quickly refer you to the array formula to get this specific numbers so that you can decide however you want to choose it. As I say, you can, if you want to, have two additional numbers. You may not even have a number. Those are letters K and M. You do not need to increase. You can even put in three letters, K, M, L, something to that effect. But in our case, we think that having two letters, one from it's auto-generated, maybe from the name or the surname, will be enough because it is highly unlikely that people will submit at the same second, microsecond, because therefore the number is so long after the letters will have necessarily the same letter starting the name and the surname. It all depends on you. As I say, there are two options to get the auto-generated numbers. You go to a control column that you control, for example, a drop-down menu with checkbox, where you know all the letters start in the capital letters or small letters, but in this case we prefer to make the case easy and simple. After having input your array formula, you then go back to the form, and then in the input question you put the following regex formula. And the regex formula in this case, because the first three characters are fixed and it is predetermined, you say the first character must be a capital I, the second character must be a capital M, and the third character must be a capital P. If you do not validate the question in where the person must input in the form, it may be just cause extra problems for you at the end, because the purpose of validation is to make sure that the input data corresponds to what you have and what you want. Then we follow with the regex formula. It says the fourth character can be any capital letter A to Z, and in this case it's K because it's auto-generated, so you do not have control over how it looks. The fifth character can also be any capital, but it must be in capital A to Z character. Then you can go to the numbers and you say insert any number 0 to 9 for the next 3 character spaces which are there. Thereafter, follow this the period in brackets, the period, and this is then concluded with any number 0 to 9 for 5 character spaces which are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have, as said a few times already, any number of characters that you want to. You can have any character. You can have even here 3 specific numbers that you want to specify. That can be any number. This specify and fixed text can be 1 character, even 2 characters. It all depends on you and your situation. The steps to create this user-friendly and more robust case number are very simple. The first step is you create the form with its section and field for a case number. The second step is then that you go back to the Excel response sheet and do the necessary changes. And then the third and last step is where you go back to the form and then insert the regex formula to validate the data. I will now cover some of the steps in greater detail. Because these steps are covered in other videos, I will not go into too much depth. Your first step is that you create your Google form, and specifically you create a space, a section, as well as a field for the case number. In this case, I put there an example of the case number that I ultimately want, and then also the directions and the instructions. Please enter correctly, taking care to use uppercase letters, and to put the period at the right place and no empty spaces, for example. When you create the case number field, you just select short answer text. You do not need to validate it at this stage. After having created the form, you of course fill it in and complete at least 1 or 2 in order to create your Excel response sheet. In the Google spreadsheet, you create clean up columns for the data you want to use. The cleanup columns and the array formulas for this I covered in previous videos of mine. I just repeat it shortly. You have since you're going to use the surname, you create a cleanup column for the surnames, and this will make sure that these spellings that are just not neat, with the spaces and with the unnecessary capital letters and small letters, will be in such a way that it is neat, using the array formula cover and trim. So I created therefore two columns, cleanup columns, one for the surname and one for the name. You can also use a column later on, as I said, for that is more controlled, and in this case the input for this minute book is dependent on a drop down box, so that I am sure in this case the first letter is always a capital letter. Your case number columns, and these case number columns I also addressed in a previous video of mine. I just want to go into the formula for the auto number generated here. As said earlier, it's an array formula, and the first part of the array formula says here input the text, fixed text IMP. Then go to the column I, and this is a cleanup column, and extract the first letter from the left. So it extracts K here, and there is the K. Then join with it through an array formula the first letter from the left, first character from the left in the column J, which is a cleanup column. So I'm always sure capital letters are extracted because these are cleaned up columns, and there are no spaces. You can have more than one letter that you want to extract from the left, and then come and join with it using the array formula the mid value, time value of the timesheet, of the timestamp. Apologies. And this then gives you the auto-generated number that you then come and email through to whoever is inputting data, the form, and then they will have it after having completed the first time the form. Having completed the steps in the spreadsheet of Google, you then return to the form. In the third and final step, you return to your form and then go to the case number that you question and section that you had before. You validate the question, data validation, and then the short answer, as a short answer, you select here the regular expression option, and from the regular expression option, the regex, you then have the option contains, matches but contains, and then what I usually do is I do not necessarily construct and type in formulas inside the box here. I maybe use MS Word to have the formula there, and then just copy it without spaces into this box, and there you have it. Here are the two formulas used. Thank you very much for watching this video. We love constructive comments and criticism. Please like this video and also share this video. Thank you very much.